Welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar on Is Your Marketing Feeling Disconnected from Sales? We're going to jump into some introductions very quickly.
Yeah, so hi there. Thanks for joining. And again, thank you to the Canadian Marketing Association for partnering with us on this webinar. My name is Christian Galtieri, Business Development Manager with Gold Vision in our Toronto office. And in this webinar, we'll be speaking a little bit more about how my role has bridged between sales and marketing.
My name is Mark Vernon. I'm General Manager of Gold Vision CRM Toronto, and I'm looking forward to sharing our experiences too, especially over the last year. I'm involved in, well, all three actually, marketing, sales and customer experience. Thanks for joining us today.
And my name is Kim Stewart-Thomas. I'm the digital marketing lead here, so I'll be bringing the marketing perspective. And as my title would suggest, I'm responsible for all things digital, so whether that's blogs, webinars like these, email signatures, social media assets, you name it, it's going to come past me before we unleash it on the world.
And one of the things we're going to be talking about actually is how we, in the last few years, have brought sales and marketing together. And focused on that kind of customer success, customer experience. Going to be sharing with you some of the things we've done to achieve that. We'd absolutely love it if you have any experiences you want to share or questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat. We are going to have questions in the end, but it'd be lovely to hear from you along the way and hear your feedback too on that. We're going to talk to you a little bit about some of our initiatives. One of which being our SMAG group, which is our social media action group. So yeah, looking forward to running through that. Please feedback to us.
Great. So I guess just to start off with looking at traditional sales and marketing, and it was really interesting. I had a conversation with somebody recently about this who had quite a distinguished career in sales and decided to dabble a little bit into marketing and then was pulled back into sales, and they really said it was a left brain versus right brain. And that very much is what traditional sales and marketing was, right? Your left brain is your, how many dial outs, how many emails, what are my leads to prospect conversion, my prospect to client conversion. And, the right brain being the marketing, where it's all creative, creating that content for the sales team. And really those separate teams had separate systems, individual mindsets, maybe even individual KPIs and no crossover goals. Now, the issue with that is when you work in that sort of a way, you have a problem in not having full visibility over the client and not having that common communication journey and really having one voice. And really that undermines the trust and rapport that you're trying to build with that client in today's world. The buyer journey's changed so much. They know a lot more about your product or service now with digital means. And this has definitely been amplified over the pandemic, where people just really want to have that one single voice through their whole buyer journey with you. And so what we'll do is we'll discuss as a team here kind of how our roles and our stories have changed, but we'd also like to get your feedback through a poll that we have, and I think it's just going to come up here. So here it is. Just let us know kind of your biggest obstacles in the way, but I guess to start it off, I'll just have a little bit of a conversation here with my colleagues. Let's go ahead there, Mark. What challenges are you facing?
Oh, Mark, my dear, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. There we go. Managed it on the webinar. Perfect. So yeah, just thinking back a couple of years, last couple of years, one of the challenges we absolutely saw was that buyer journey shift from a business development perspective. So going from that traditional point of often getting inbound leads at a particular point where they are often the same. We develop the relationship from there. And that really has changed quite a lot. So we'll get engaged in different ways and different times. And we definitely saw that challenge back then, which was having to find new ways to do prospecting, engaging with buyers at different phases of the journey that we weren't particularly used to. And so looking at different ways to get engaged there. So that was one of the challenges we saw. How about yourself, Kim? What did marketing look like sort of before?
Well, I mean, I started in marketing only about 5 years or so ago. But even then, it was quite the experience that Christian was describing of two very separate teams. So I was on the marketing team, obviously, and we were quite blinkered. We would get together to plan, for instance, the content and campaigns for the year ahead. And that would be based purely on our own research and insights. And it never really seemed to cross any of our minds to engage with the sales team, to get their input, find out what conversations they've been having with customers and leads equally. And as a result, we felt quite disconnected from them as a team. And I think that was reflected in the fact like our goals and our targets, our KPIs were very separate from theirs. So although they may have been linked to the overall business objectives, there was no connection between the two teams. So I think that led to inevitably quite a lot of duplication and a bit of frustration, if I'm honest, of we were trying to achieve similar things, but just without helping one another get there. Christian, how about yourself?
Yeah, from my sort of sales perspective, I mean, with Goal Vision, we always had a sort of tight relationship with marketing because of our integrated tool. But really, I've noticed that over the past year, I've had to even tighten that more, where I've had to really kind of understand from a marketing perspective, where are our sort of engagement of leads coming from the social channels. And that's something that we're going to dive into deeper in this webinar. But what I've found and what I've observed personally with that is engaging in the social channels early on is really getting those leads at the earlier buyer journey than when they're coming on your website, maybe filling out a web form. So if you can start to foster that relationship earlier on in just that very preliminary stage where they're just kind of maybe starting to have a little bit of an appetite for your service or product, that goes a long way. So that's definitely one area I've seen where I've had to have, a higher frequency of communication with the marketing team, and also just having check-ins to see what they're thinking of strategically and how that kind of fits in line with what I can contribute from the sales side. So.
Echoed here, actually, I can see in the poll results there, Christian. So
yes.
Highest one by far, but no communication between teams. So I'm going to definitely talk to you a little bit about how we solve that ourselves. Separate teams and systems. That's a classic one. Obviously, is the second there.
Yeah.
Thanks for feeding back.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah. So
Sorry,
maybe just moving on then with marketing digital versus traditional. So what are you looking at from a traditional side of things? Well, really it was cold calling with sales. So maybe you would have marketing contribute a little bit with qualification metrics to help you kind of know which are the priority to cold call those leads, and then getting into your sales demo or your product demo or whatever it is that you're doing. And then trying to, dig lots of holes and find the gold that way. Whereas in today's digital world, it really much is about education and engagement, right? So it's getting on those social platforms. It's educating yourself. That's something that I've had to accelerate in my sort of sales professional development, is really understanding how to get more knowledgeable around the social media engagement, but also educating your team members, right? So having that sort of knowledge dissemination in your sessions together. And also you're educating the client, right? So they're going to those, as I said earlier, they're going to those social media channels earlier to see your content before they're even coming onto your website, right? So maybe it's a digestible video and they want to know something about your product or service. It's really important that you're surrounding those clients or those potential clients early on, and it's about educating them and really being engaged. I don't know if Kim or Mark have an additional perspective there, but that's it.
Into those engagement platforms.
No, definitely. This ties quite nicely into what I was going to move into, just exploring that new world in a little bit more detail. I mean, as Christian said, your buyers are a lot more educated and prepared before they speak to you, and they could reach out to your sales team at any time rather than in a, traditional sort of funnel sense. But other ways that it's changed, your teams are more likely to be spread out. So whether or not that's a combination of working from home and working in the office or spread across the globe. I mean, we experienced that here with myself and Mark based in the UK and Christian over in Toronto. So what hasn't changed is the need for those teams to be able to work together. And things like social and shared systems like a CRM make that much easier to manage and achieve. Social media has also given sales teams new ways to reach out and network to peers and prospective clients. rather than having to wait for in-person events or networking opportunities, which has been really helpful, especially considering recent times. But it's also opened up new opportunities in terms of how to nurture your existing customers and their relationships. There's a good example here from Jiggy Patel, our head of customer experience. And she and other members of the sales team will do this after things like an account management call or a site visit, and just share what's been going on with that customer, share a little bit of an insight into how we manage that relationship. And it just makes that customer feel a little bit special. And it also showcases how we prioritize our customers to other prospects. We've already talked about the buyers being self-sufficient. So what you can really take from all of this is to break out of your echo chamber and use the tools that you have available to you to, keep up with the things that are changing rather than being left behind. Absolutely.
Always thinking about the customer's success. What can you do to help your customers succeed? I think that's one of the best questions you can ask yourself in the sort of new world. So we've talked a lot about the problems. We've talked a bit about where we are at the moment in the new world. So we're going to talk a little bit here about how we've sort of learned to thrive. Obviously, we've had additional challenges this last year with the pandemic, but that's not the only challenge we've had. So what have we done? So one of the first things we did is, as a combined sales and marketing team, we started to learn. So we got out there and we learned from industry experts who had already made this shift, and read some books. We got engaged with social media experts, and we looked at how other businesses were doing this. And we said, oh, okay, what change do we need to make in our business strategy to evolve through this period? And we came up with a plan. And we also did some experiments, and we'll talk a bit about that in terms of the SMAG group later. And we also started working towards an overall target. So we started looking at some of the ways in which we were previously targeting our marketing and previously targeting our sales. And we said, okay, which of these can we pull together into an overall target? So a good example for that will be kind of content generation. So historically, that'd be something you might see as a purely marketing exercise. Actually, we had crossover virtual teams. Actually, this is a great example, doing a webinar with members from the different teams, so we can add value in there and work to an overall objective there. Finally, on this point, if you are making these changes, which are really important, this evolution, is making sure you can communicate this around, often be business leadership teams getting involved in the evolution of a business. So if you're making those changes to your teams or to your systems and bringing them together, take some time out to work with the members of those teams so everyone knows what's going on and they're part of that change.
And that leads quite nicely into the next point around it being a team game to drive that content. So Mark's already sort of touched on this first one about shared and defined targets across those two teams. This is really vital. We've sort of touched on it in the sense of, if you're working towards the same targets, you're more likely to be effective at what you're trying to achieve. So for instance, with a particular piece of content, we will engage with the sales team to generate it, and we will set particular targets for how many views we want, how many conversions we want, and both teams will be aware of what we're aiming to achieve there, and we'll feed that back then in monthly meetings that we have with both teams, so we can see how successful we've actually been with our content for that month. Sales and marketing supporting one another links quite nicely to that. So this goes through everything, and it goes both ways. It's not a one-sided relationship. So if sales need a particular asset or some additional support for a really hot lead that they're trying to nurture, or if marketing, if we're really struggling to find the right angle for a piece of content or the right hook for a webinar, we will engage with each other to help along the generation of those ideas. And marketing's role not ending with the sale, and that's something I think really vital that we've started to tap into. Once that sale is complete and we have a customer on board, we will work with the sales member to help get a customer review from that customer or a story so that we can share it on our website. And that also then facilitates other people, as we were saying, buyers educating themselves before they reach out to you. The more customer stories and reviews that you have, the better that you're going to be able to convey your message and your USPs to those prospects.
Yeah, great. And once you have those targets and goals and all of the multiple teams are on board, you really want to be able to report on that, right? You want to be able to drive engagement to the right channels and not be spinning your wheels. Having data, as a team is great, or as an organization, but if you can't draw knowledge management from it, you're going to be expending a lot of time and energy in the wrong places, right? So driving engagement to those right channels, and it's trial and error, right? So if you see some data that's not looking great, that allows you to be pivoting, right? Be agile. It's an evolution, as Mark said, so you have to be adaptable, right? So building the reports and tracking that engagement is key to your success, and then refining those processes. So having a positive feedback loop in understanding that. An example is, with lead management is scoring those different sources. Where are they coming from? Is it from Twitter? Is it from your website? Is it from LinkedIn, right? Knowing where to allocate those sort of resources is vital for the future of marrying sales and marketing together.
Absolutely. Thanks, Christian. And thanks, Nicholas, for your comment here in the chat. I love you've taken the time to comment here. So, sales and marketing is separate. It still is. There's another piece of the puzzle. IT, absolutely. Yeah, the systems must come together. Completely agree with that. In fact, I was going to share with you 3 things that we did, actual things we did as a business, in case you're interested in concrete examples. So first, we've already mentioned, is we created this social media action group. We called it the SMAG group because it had a cool ring to it. Where actually that was an experimental group. We were learning how to do social media from a couple of years back. So we're trying new things, trying new engagement. It was a small crossover team, virtual team between sales and marketing. And that was used to learn and drive the adoption of that in the rest of the business, so we could actually try it. If you haven't already got very engaged in social selling, then it's quite a soft landing. Definitely recommend trying that and doing it with a virtual team, people from sales and marketing. Second thing we've started doing, it's a real easy one, combined sales and marketing meetings. So we'll have regular sessions where the sales teams and marketing teams will come together. We'll talk about our shared goals. People can throw in gender items into that, so we can talk collectively about how things are going and support each other. Again, that's really easy to do. You don't need to make any changes to people or systems to do that. You just get it into your agenda and have the conversation. Third thing we did, and this goes back into your point, Nicholas, is we made sure we had shared dashboards in our CRM, shared views in our CRM, so everyone from both of these teams could see that information, and we integrated and brought all that data into one dashboard, or a set of dashboards that we could all see. I'm going to move us on here. If anyone else has any comments or questions, like Nicholas, please do reach out. We'd love to hear from you. That would be fantastic. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about prospecting. So I talked to you at the beginning about how the challenges we'd had and how our sales journey had changed. And there's some examples here about traditional and modern. Some of these may be relevant to your business, and some of them not. But one of the things we found is prospecting absolutely has changed. Traditionally, we would have invested in, say, paper lead type approaches, where we'd get new leads would be at a particular point in their journey. It's quite linear. We'd start building a relationship from that point, and we would then engage with them and then close sale and continue. That has absolutely changed. So we are finding we're having to take information and benefits from the end of the sales process, such as customer stories, such as reviews, such as referrals, and bringing those back in way earlier in the sales buyer journey, such that we can use that information with people who aren't even leads yet or not prospects. We can share that. We can actually use that to add value to people who may not even thought about engaging with us as a business. We can say, hey, here's something we can do. Here's how we can help you. We can add value to someone else's business. And that's an example of how we've sort of transitioned from traditional to modern. It doesn't mean all of the traditional methods have gone away. So a good example here I'll pick out is cold calling versus warm calling. So cold calling, I'm sure everyone who's been in sales is familiar with that, but has now evolved into rather than just cold calling a bunch of people, is thinking, well, I can target the people who have shown me engagement on social media, or maybe engaged with my content, or liked my comment, or I can spend more time learning about other people, more so than I ever have been previously as a salesperson. But just going on LinkedIn or going on their website, just reading about the content that they're creating and the challenges they might be having. So that's how it's evolved. If I've talked about or not talked about something there that's relevant to you, I'd love to hear it. Yeah, I'll hand over to you, Kim.
Fantastic. So just leading quite nicely on from what Mark was discussing there, we're just going to have a quick look at the traditional sales funnel versus the new sales journey. And I think most of us should be familiar with this sales funnel because it's quite similar to what marketing will use as well to traditionally help generate content. And there is still a time and a place for this funnel, but the only problem with it is it's quite limited. And as a result, the content that you can generate can be quite limited in its potential, especially when you consider what we've already discussed about the buyer educating themselves and being able to reach out to your sales team at any point that they want to, which is what's demonstrated in this new sales journey. It's really important that your sales and marketing team are pulling on those principles of supporting one another and having those shared targets and goals so that you can address these different stages where you might potentially receive contact. So that could be anything like insights from marketing to sales on what we are seeing people searching for. So particular keywords that are increasing in popularity, or helping reach out for reviews and customer stories like we've already discussed. And in exchange, sales could be providing insights into conversations that they're having, pain points, particular features or products that are really performing well or really becoming popular with that customer base, and helping each other when it comes to social media. Like marketing, obviously, we do a lot around social media within the business, and sales are trying to do a lot more of that with social selling. So it's a really simple way of supporting that sales team, just to cast a glance over a social post that they're working on, or maybe an article on LinkedIn that they want to write. You can give them some insights and some tips just to really make the most out of that. And that all feeds back into this overall aim of getting more customers to convert into, more buyers to convert into customers, sorry. So yeah, so it's just being responsive and supporting one another so that you can adapt to this new sales journey. We're going to move on and have a bit more of a conversation around how we've changed. But before we do, I'm just going to put a poll out there because we're curious to see, based on what we've talked about so far, what you might want to prioritize to help you get closer to sales and marketing alignment. So I've just shared that now. We're going to dig into this conversation and we'll review those results in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess just to start off with, Mark, how has your daily routine changed in sales?
That's a great question. So very much, as I was saying, it's moved from doing only planned for linear sales activities. So having a call, having a demo, progressing the relationship. Obviously, those things still happen. They haven't gone away. But on a daily basis, I'm doing way more engagement. So early on engagement, so interacting with people from a networking point of view, adding value to people who may be a prospect, but also from a customer experience point of view, making the most I can do to ensure that our customers are succeeding, understanding what their ongoing needs are, and anything they can feed back to us there. So much wider and broader array of things.
Yeah. I think it's quite striking actually with the past slide that we showed, where it's very much a linear funnel approach in the traditional sense, where the sales mindset would be just checking in, just touching base at each of those sort of funnel stages. Whereas on the right-hand side, it's a much more creative approach now, where you're actually trying to add value, not necessarily at a defined stage, but it's really just trying to provide content and knowledge to the client to just help them nurture, their journey through understanding you as a company and your service offering, right? So, yeah.
So actually, and we've talked about some of them already, but what have been the key initiatives in our business to bring the teams together?
Well, yeah, I think as you've already spoken about it, but SMAG was a big one for us. As Mark said, it started a couple of years back when we identified that social selling was a strategy and an initiative that we wanted to be involved with. But we were coming into it relatively cold. We were all on social media. We knew that the company had a social media page. But beyond that, it was very much a case of working together across the two teams to just test things out. And it was really reliant on the two teams coming together because sales were able to provide a perspective that was unique, as was marketing. And I think that was really key to our success. And we ran various pilots to test things out, because the thing that we realized early on is that we're not experts, and we weren't expecting any of us to be an expert. Some were a little bit stronger than others and helped each other sort of get to that similar level. But yeah, the best thing that we did was run those pilots, come back together, review those results, do what we needed to do to tweak and improve it, and then take it forward into another pilot. And that's just sort of morphed into a really natural social selling process, where we can more casually get together and just feedback and share any pointers or new insights that we've learnt. So yeah, that would be the one that I would pick.
Mm-hmm. There's also something we touched on I haven't mentioned, is the creation. We have a customer experience or customer success team, which is headed up by Jiggy Patel, who you featured earlier, who has really, as an individual, also spearheaded this idea of customer success in our business. And often that, I mentioned at the beginning that sales and marketing, we'd say sort of sales plus marketing equals customer success, but it's so true. It does capture all of those aspects and add even more into it. And that's definitely a key initiative from our side.
No, totally.
Yeah.
Christian, how about yourself?
Yeah. From my perspective, an initiative that I've gotten quite involved with is the short video, educational videos that we're putting out. So I'm trying to really bridge that gap between sales and marketing, and really keeping just an observation, I guess, as to universal pain points or challenges in different industry verticals, and hear how those struggles can relate to a CRM feature, and relay that back to the marketing team to create a digestible video that shows how, there's a feature of CRM that can really address that pain point or challenge. So I've definitely been working a lot more closely with that working group. And yeah, like you said, with customer experiences, just trying to immerse myself a little bit more in account management and understanding the customer experience, and how that relates to how Goal Vision was able to help them, right? So from a customer story perspective, it's usually a good mutual cross-pollination marketing opportunity for us to help support each other's business through a good customer testimonial. So those are kind of two initiatives that I've been quite involved with over the past year.
I like that cross-pollination. Perhaps that's a marketing thing we could do with some bees.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the poll results here whilst we're talking. So shared reporting and goals is number one. Absolutely. I just add to that sometimes one of the things that can get in your way is kind of middle reporting statistics, like how many calls you're making or whatever. And those things can just make you busy, but not necessarily get what you want. So think about the sort of keep the end goal in mind there. And then you kind of have an equal distribution here, integrating your systems, or having one system that can do both. Shared meetings between teams, absolutely recommend that, even if it's just once a month, just so you can talk about your individual goals.
Yeah. I think that's been one of the main changes for me, is those meetings between the sales and marketing teams has really helped facilitate probably the best content that we've created since I joined the company, because we are getting those unique insights from the sales guys. And doing things like this webinar, like Mark said, it's just lovely to have that the voices from the different teams coming together to then share what we've learned with other people. So hopefully you're finding it helpful. But yeah, we involve the sales team so much more in our content planning and campaign planning. And we'll still base it partly on our research and our insights, like I mentioned right at the beginning. But there's a lot more input now from them, which means that we can really be answering the right questions that customers or leads or prospects are asking. We can address common concerns or pain points that they are hearing. Couldn't get my words out then. And I think as a result, I hope it's giving our sales team more confidence in the content they're sharing, especially in the context of social selling on LinkedIn, because a lot of that is built around sharing content, sharing insights, and being a helpful resource to your network. And I think it's bridged the gap between the two of us. So it does feel like we are supporting one another. It feels like we've achieved one of those key goals of being connected and supportive.
Yeah.
Great. So moving on to how CRM can help.
Yeah, so how can CRM help? And just going back to Nicholas's comment, agree. So it's unifying that IT piece in the equation as well. But it's very important to keep in mind that CRM is more than just a piece of software, right? It's a business philosophy, it's a cultural thing, but it's also a dynamic process. So you want to be thinking about your CRM in a dynamic way that it's evolving with your business, right? It's not something you implement and then 20 years later you hope to be the same company fixated around your CRM. It has to grow with your company. And so really that starts at the beginning of the journey with the customer. So lead management. As I said, it's important to get some very critical information, right? So where are those sources coming from? Touch point scoring so that you're not digging lots of holes to try and find the gold. It's displayed right there in front of you so that you know exactly what you need to go for. Single point of truth. This is so important when you're thinking about a CRM and finding a partner, is have them really understand that you want to unify your sales, your marketing, and your customer experience. Have everything in the CRM providing that full 360-degree view of the customer, and that it's live and everybody can see that single point of truth. Campaign data and click-through. So thinking about your marketing, make sure that it's fully integrated within your CRM and that you're not having external sources of campaigns through spreadsheets, right? So getting that campaign data, crossing over into the CRM, seeing those click-through rates. Marketing automation is also a very effective tool, being able to engage that customer through the journey depending on what they're clicking through. That's where that value add is, right? So it's automating that sort of knowledge and educational journey that they're experiencing, and they're getting a single voice from you as a business. Events and webinars. So many people I know have pivoted to do webinars and events to try and engage their customer base as well as their prospective customer base. So having events and webinars, coming into the CRM, talking to your CRM so that you can really engage. Perhaps they're not right now, having a serious consideration of your product, but just starting that relationship from just coming to a webinar is really key to unifying sales and marketing. And again, just hitting home that point, I've made it, Kim has made it, and Mark has made it, is having shared dashboards, right? It really is those, cross-team goals, cross-team engagement, but having that reporting there, right? So that you're seeing a feedback loop, being able to refine your processes, staying adaptable, being agile, and ultimately that CRM is growing with your business as you change and pivot in the directions that you're taking. So yeah, I'd love to hear any comments there on what you're experiencing from your CRM perspective to our audience, but yes.
That's reading from Nicholas here again. Building a brand takes continuity, consistency, relevancy, and relationship building, among other things. Customers own the brand. We know this. Yeah, that's very true. When they contact you, your response needs to be in one voice, one message. Separating sales and marketing can create a very staccato method of communication with customers. Absolutely.
This is really true. And this is one of the key things that we were able to address with SMAG, with the help of SMAG, because as part of our initial testing and exploration, it was how we message, how we know that we can be confident that everyone that's speaking with us is getting a consistent message, tone of voice, that sort of thing. So again, we would run pilots to test different types of messaging, different types of outreach, different types of engagement. And we created off the back of that guides. So not a strict, you must write this exact message if you're going to reach out to someone in this context, but just rough guides, language guides, that sort of thing, tone of voice guides, so that everyone who is going to be engaging on social media and sort of flying that flag for Goal Vision will be doing it in a consistent on-brand tone of voice kind of way, but still bringing their unique personality or thoughts to it. So it's just striking that balance between the two.
It's so important, isn't it? And one without the other is not very good. You're all corporate, then it lacks the personality. Personal brand is so important, but you have to align that personal brand. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Thanks, Nicholas. I really appreciate you reaching out with that comment there.
Fantastic.
So, three things that we really wanted to provide to you to take away today are: one, absolutely get social. That doesn't just mean obviously jump on social media on its own, but think about building that personal brand aligned with your business strategy. Find or create content or engage with content that's relevant. Number 2 is definitely adopt that one team thinking. Find a simple way that you can abridge the teams. If there are any barriers, just start simple. That's often the best way, like we did, or try and experiment. Just cut a bit of time out of your day to do that and build from there. And third, and most importantly, is absolutely keep putting the customer at the heart of everything. All of that. So think about their journey, think about the types of ways in which you're engaging with your customer. If you have a black spot in your customer journey or communications, ask yourself how you can fill it. That will be a problem for you. If one of your colleagues has had a communication with some customer and you can't see it, that is definitely a problem. So think about how you can go into those conversations with your customers armed with the information they expect you to have.
Fantastic. So that's the end of our session on Is Your Marketing Feeling Disconnected from Sales? We have actually got a brand new ebook in the works on this topic that goes into a bit more detail about how CRM can be the key to really achieving sales and marketing alignment. And that will be available in the next few days into early next week. So we will be following up with everyone that's attended today with a copy of that. In the meantime, I'm going to share an ebook that we've written about social selling with 7 simple steps to get started. As we've mentioned, it's one of the key initiatives that we undertook that really helped bring our teams together as well as launch our social selling strategy. So it's a good read and hopefully you'll find it helpful. So yes, this is the perfect time. If you've got any questions or you'd like us to go into anything in a little bit more detail, please do let us know.
Feedback. This is your opportunity to throw tomatoes or give praise. Just while waiting for any feedback here, just to thank you for joining us today. Thanks for the engagement. It's a pleasure. It's always good to have that feedback through the polls and the questions. Thanks, Nicholas, for your feedback there. It's great to have that engagement and to say this. Webinars are something we do ongoing. So if you have found today useful, and I hope it has been thought-provoking, from our website, gold-vision.com, we have our webinars are always posted on there and on social media. So we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, and we do have a playlist of our on-demand webinars available on YouTube, which I'm just going to share an action for you to subscribe to that. So following each webinar, we do upload it onto YouTube and you can see the library. So if you see anything that catches your eye and you want to watch it, please dive in. That'd be great.
Thanks, Lauren, Kyla, Mary.
Yeah, thank you very much for the feedback. And feel free to connect with us. I always appreciate bouncing ideas off of people through, LinkedIn or email, or even picking up the phone and just having a conversation. I really do enjoy talking to people about business challenges. So feel free to connect with us at any time.
Absolutely. We popped our LinkedIn's in the
I might do
chat
that
there earlier as well. So probably put them back in if that's useful. And thanks for the feedback, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that and found that useful. And
And thank you again to the Canadian Marketing Association for the partnership in this event. Really appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye, everyone.